My girlfriend told her friends, "He'll never amount to anything." I said nothing. 3 years later, the company she mocked me for building hit 7 figures. She slid into my DMs that same night. I left her on red. I was 31, and Maren was 29 when it started to rot. We had been together for 4 years in a narrow upstairs duplex in Toledo, Ohio, where the furnace rattled every time the wind came off the river. I worked inventory control at a turbine parts warehouse, and she managed a salon desk downtown, where she liked to tell people I was practical in the way a stalled car was practical. We ate late at a small Thai counter near Monroe Street and bought coffee from a bakery inside an old tire shop. Our social life came from her friends, mostly people who measured success by appearances and knew nothing about balance sheets. I liked that life less every month, because after work I was building something quieter. My side company was called Northridge Systems. I used it to help small manufacturers track machine downtime and repair costs. One plant in Sandusky paid me $15,000 for a pilot dashboard. Another shop near Findlay wanted monthly reporting. It was not glamorous, but it was real. Then an operations director in Savannah called me with a better offer. The role was reliability lead at a port automation firm, with a salary of $148,000, a 20% bonus, full medical coverage, a retirement match, and a relocation package. They also offered 6 months of housing support near the riverfront. Maren looked at the offer letter and laughed once. "That's a cute little escape plan," she said. I said nothing. She told her friends I was acting important. One of them, Paige, repeated it at dinner. "He'll never amount to anything," she said. Maren did not correct her. That night, I opened a new savings account, moved my consulting income there, and started looking at apartments in Savannah. Update 2. I kept the job offer in a folder on my laptop and quietly prepared. I called my bank, arranged a wire transfer limit, and spoke to a moving company in Michigan that handled cross-country work for corporate clients. I also searched for a small house near Ardsley Park because I wanted a place that felt calm instead of temporary. Maren noticed the boxes I brought home from supply closets at work. "What is all this for?" she asked. "Documents and storage," I said. She folded her arms and watched me like she already knew the answer. Her friends came over that Friday, and the conversation turned into the same old performance. They talked about people who chased money and people who stayed loyal to the city that raised them. I had heard enough of those speeches to recognize them as fear-wearing perfume. "You're really leaving," Maren said. "I accepted the offer," I replied. Paige looked at her drink and smiled. "He is bluffing," she said. Maren stepped closer to the kitchen table. "Choose me or the job," she said. I kept my voice level. "I chose my future already," I said. She stared at me, then tried a different angle. "You would be nothing without me," she said. That line sounded rehearsed, which made it easier to hear. I told her the company was growing, the move was planned, and the housing support made the timing clean. I explained the health coverage, the bonus structure, and the promotion track after 6 months. I had already signed the paperwork. She did not hear any of it. She heard only that she was losing control. Update 3. For the next few weeks, Maren moved through anger, then bargaining, then denial. She called the Savannah office a mistake. She called the consulting business a phase. She called my savings account proof that I was hiding things, as if quiet planning were betrayal. I stayed calm and packed one room at a time. My friend Darius helped me sell the old sectional to a couple who ran a dog grooming shop near Perrysburg. My sister, Nola, took the books I would not fit into the new place. She said Savannah sounded like a good reset. Maren kept changing tactics. "Come back next month," she said. "I am leaving next week," I replied. She tried guilt, then silence, then sudden tenderness that felt mechanical. When those failed, she told everyone I was abandoning her after she had supported me for years. The story spread fast, because people like easy villains and simple endings. My moving day was quiet. Maren was not there. She had gone to stay with a cousin across town after deciding that my departure was an insult to her dignity. I loaded the last of my tools into a steel gray Volvo V60 Cross Country, a car I had bought used and paid off early. It looked ordinary, which I appreciated. The drive south took 2 days. When I reached Savannah, the air smelled like salt and warm concrete. My temporary apartment sat above a locksmith shop near Gwinnett Street, with a narrow balcony and exposed brick walls. At night, I could hear freight trucks on Bay Street and music from a bar that served shrimp over rice in paper bowls. The job site was larger than anything I had worked on before. The control rooms had polished floors, glass walls, and enough screens to make me feel underdressed. My manager, Elise Mercer, introduced me to the team and showed me where I would sit. I unpacked my coffee mug, opened my laptop, and realized the quiet had finally become mine. Update 4. By the second month, I knew the port schedule, the maintenance cycles, and the names of the people who actually solved problems. Janelle Arroyo from procurement brought me useful numbers without being asked. Omar Baines from field operations had a habit of telling the truth before meetings turned political. That alone made him valuable. I started eating lunch at a tiny seafood counter near the waterfront where the cashier knew my order after a week. I rented a brick cottage in the Starland district after the housing support kicked in, and the front porch had enough room for 2 chairs and a lemon tree in a pot. The place smelled like old wood and clean paint. The work paid well, but the real change was the stability. I stopped checking my phone every 10 minutes. I started sleeping through the night. My consulting business also picked up because Savannah had more port contractors than I expected, and they all needed practical reporting. 1 pilot contract turned into 3. At the 6-month review, Elise approved a bonus that pushed my annual earnings well past $170,000. Then she handed me a title change, Regional Reliability Manager, and a budget to build out the analytics side of the department. That was when I thought about Marin's saying, "He'll never amount to anything." I had heard it enough that it no longer sounded personal. It sounded naive. Word started leaking back through old channels. Darius told me one of Marin's friends had asked about my move. Nola said a cousin had seen my company name on a supplier invoice and sent her a screenshot. I answered politely and gave no extra details. People who had laughed before were suddenly curious. I stayed reserved because curiosity was not respect. Update 5. I posted the promotion on LinkedIn the same day the paperwork cleared. The update was plain, with no drama, no speech, and no apology. It mentioned the company expansion, the regional scope, and the team I was building across 3 states. The message traffic started within an hour. Marin found the post first. She texted me before noon. "Since when are you a regional manager?" she asked. I did not reply. By evening, she had sent 3 more messages. The last one asked how I could afford the cottage, the car, and the flight upgrades I had posted for a supplier conference. She still did not understand that the consulting company she mocked had grown into a serious operation. Northridge Systems had passed 7 figures in revenue by then, because the port clients kept renewing and 2 smaller manufacturers had signed annual agreements. Her old friends noticed next. Paige called Nola, trying to sound casual. "We heard he was doing well," she said. Nola was not casual. "You heard wrong for years," she replied. That answer traveled faster than my own post. One by one, the people who had sided with Marin admitted they had believed the easiest story. One friend said Marin had always made it sound like I was wasting my time. Another said she thought I was just tinkering after work. My father was even simpler. "You made the right call," he said. That meant more than any applause. Marin's messages kept shifting from curiosity to regret. She asked about my salary, then my bonus, then the consulting contracts, then the house. I answered none of that. I kept building the team, hiring another analyst, and taking longer walks along the river after work. The old insult had become a headline in somebody else's life. Update 6. Marin showed up in Savannah on a rainy Thursday in November. I was leaving the office when I saw her standing under the awning by the lobby doors. She wore a black coat and the same silver watch she used to show off in Toledo. "You look good," she said. I nodded once. She asked for coffee, and I agreed because I wanted the conversation finished in daylight. We sat near a window at a place on Broughton Street that served bourbon cake and dark roast in heavy ceramic cups. "I changed," she said. I looked at her for a long moment. "You posted that I was going nowhere," I said. She folded her hands and looked at the table. "I was wrong," she said. "Wrong is not the same as harmless," I replied. Her jaw tightened. She said the move had scared her, that her friends had pushed her, that she never meant to hurt me. Each explanation arrived with just enough self-protection to reduce the value of the apology. She wanted a version of the past where her cruelty was only stress. I opened my phone and showed her the old messages. The ones where she repeated that I would never amount to anything. The ones where she called the Savannah role a fantasy. The ones where she joked about my company before it had real revenue. That was not stress, I said. She looked at me with a careful expression. We can start over, she said. I answered without raising my voice. No, we cannot. She reached for my wrist, then stopped halfway and pulled her hand back. The whole scene felt small compared to the years she had wasted. I paid for the coffee, walked her to the door, and told her to fly home. She called twice the next week. I let those calls ring out. Update 7. 2 months later, Marin tried a different path. She posted vague claims online about being misled, about shared work, about a relationship that had left her in financial trouble. Then she hinted that my consulting company had copied client materials and used her contacts without permission. It looked dramatic for about 48 hours. Then my lawyer, Cass Hollis, sent a clean response with timestamps, contracts, and archived messages. Cass had a calm voice and a terrifying habit of organizing facts into neat columns. She filed a cease and desist, flagged the defamation posts, and advised me to keep everything documented. The contradictions collapsed quickly. One of Marin's own friends posted screenshots showing she had mocked the move weeks before it happened. Another admitted she had never contributed to any of the client introductions Marin mentioned online. The worst part for her was that the people she tried to impress already knew the truth. They had seen her treat my ambition like a joke, and they had watched her rewrite history when it became inconvenient. She deleted the posts within a day. That still did not save her credibility. The salon where she worked asked her to stay off the topic during business hours. Her cousin, the one who had let her crash for a while, stopped answering her calls. Even Paige went quiet, which told me everything I needed to know. I kept my response short and factual. I did not celebrate. I did not gloat. I simply returned to work, reviewed the new expansion plan, and approved a contract for a second office near Charleston. The best revenge was never noise. It was permanence. Update 8. 1 year later, I owned a larger house in Wilmington Island with a detached office that faced a marsh ditch full of herons. My consulting company employed 6 people, and my salary from the port firm had risen again after another promotion. I was making enough that I no longer thought about every purchase twice. I also started seeing someone new. Her name was Lenora Pike, and she designed marine compliance reports for a ship repair contractor. She was practical, funny in a dry way, and uninterested in the kind of performance Marin loved. We spent weekends at a breakfast place that served crab omelets and cornbread in cast-iron pans, then walked the trail near Fort Pulaski when the weather stayed cool. Then the final message came. Marin wrote late at night. I ruined something good, she said. I read it once and set the phone down. She sent another message an hour later, saying she had finally understood what she lost. I did not feel anger then. I felt distance. That was the cleanest ending I had ever experienced. I replied with one line. Take care of yourself. I blocked the number after that. Final update. A month later, I met Marin's parents at a public fundraiser near the river. Her father, Glenn, and her mother, Ruth, approached me after dinner while volunteers cleared the tables. I recognized them immediately because they carried the same careful faces Marin used when she wanted sympathy. Glenn spoke first. We owe you an apology, he said. Ruth nodded slowly. We knew she had been unfair, she said. They told me they had seen the posts, the lawsuit threat, and the messages she sent after Savannah. They had also seen the documentation Cass filed, which left very little room for interpretation. Glenn admitted they had treated my quiet planning like immaturity. Ruth said they had mistaken restraint for weakness. I accepted the apology without ceremony. You were not the problem, Glenn said. I looked out toward the water and let the sentence settle. For years, I had believed being dismissed would feel permanent. It did not. The world simply kept records better than the people who tried to rewrite it. I told them the same thing I learned the hard way. Consistency beats contempt, I said. They both went quiet. After they left, I walked to my car and saw the lights reflecting off the marsh water. The old line came back to me one last time, not as an insult, but as a marker of how far I had traveled. He'll never amount to anything. That was what they said. The company she mocked me for building had already crossed 7 figures. I had not needed revenge after all. I only needed time, discipline, and the peace to keep going.